Weird about Antarctica.
Oh boy, what a mistake. Easily the most horrifying trip I'd taken in my life. So we'd parachuted down. What I didn't realize was we had vastly miscalculated and actually dropped into a very poorly explored area of Antarctica. We trekked for just miles. And eventually I see these great big, just fantastical looking caves, and I'm going, that's strange. I didn't know about this cave structure being here. And so God, I wish we hadn't. But, we went right on in like we'd owned the place. And boy, were we in for a rude awakening, so we're walking on through and my God, man, just gorgeous. Some of the most gorgeous icework you've ever seen in your life. And so unfortunately we kept on walking through this cave, and I knew something was off personally because the ice on the ground is so damn solid, and we started spotting these footprints. What kind of an animal could indent into this type of surface? And we looked at each other for approval, like, do we keep on going? And my partner said to me, brother, we're in the middle of Antarctica to see something. He goes, I don't know about you, but I'm going in as deep as I can here. I look at him and I go, are you seeing those prints? I say to him, listen, I don't think we know where we are right now. I say this cave network wasn't on the map we'd looked at. We're in no man's land. I'm going, there's footprints in ice that you couldn't pierce with a diamond drill. I say to him, do you realize the weight and mass something would have to be to create such a print? And he looks back at me and he goes, brother, listen to yourself. He says, oh, you're just being paranoid. You always do this. He goes, those could be hundreds of years old for all we know. And so I take a closer look at some of these prints, and I'm seeing like these locks of hair in the crevice of these tracks. I grab a bunch and show it to him, and I'm going, what about this? Do you think this is a few hundred years old as well? And at that point, his facial expression kind of changed. And as he's looking at it, we hear a terrifying and ear-damaging, ferocious roar, and felt the vibrations unlike anything you've ever heard. And we're so deep in these caves at this point. There were so many twists and turns. We honestly had no idea which way we'd even run, and we're looking at each other going, holy fucking shit. And there comes these steps were like earthquakes. I mean, you felt the ground shake, and something was coming, and it was coming quick. So we take cover in these crevices that are kind of on ground level on these walls of ice. But unfortunately, we had grossly underestimated, this thing's intellect. So we're parallel to each other in these crevices, and I just remember we were looking at each other with wide eyes, thinking, man, if this is as far as we go, it was a good trip. And you just felt the terror coursing through your veins like you're ready to go on the ride of death. And as me and my friend's eyes are just honestly saying goodbye to each other, these steps come to a terror-inducing apex, and between our line of sight to each other, we now see the horrific, majestic fur coat of this beast. I mean, he was nightmarish. He was just foaming at the mouth. Great big fangs, 30, 40 feet tall at least. And he stopped right there in front of us. And for a split second, the cave was no longer rattling, and everything stood still. In one swing of emotion, he swung his arm down into the crevice my friend was hiding in. He plucked him right out like the apple of a tree, and I'll never forget the moment my friend broke those minutes of silence with a scream. full of about as much terror as I'd felt guilt, as I had no choice but to climb out of my crevice and run like hell the other way.
Jesus, man.
Horrific, man, I know. And worsely, get this, so when I'd gotten back outside of the cave, I was kindly met with none other than the force of the full-fledged United States government. I just freeze up, number one, that was a confirmation to me that, my God, I certainly wasn't supposed to be here. Number two, I'd just seen, a goddamn mythical beast. And number three, my friend is inside of its stomach, which at some point I'm going to have to answer for. And so one of these agents approaches me really adamantly, and he goes, "Buddy, what in God's name are you doing here?" And I'm wide-eyed. I don't know what to think. And I just say to him, I was just coming here on a research trip with a friend. Where am I? I go, "What is this place?" And he looks at me like he's feeling bad for me, and he goes, "Brother, you're in the McMurdo Dry Valleys, a restricted access zone for government research." He goes, "Do you want to show me your badge?" He's almost kind of saying that sarcastically. And I just say to him, "Well, I don't have a badge. Like I said, I was here on a research trip with a friend, and I think we'd landed in the wrong region." And he's just kind of looking at me almost like squinting at this point, because I'd mentioned, I'd came with a friend. However, he's nowhere to be seen. And he looks at me. He says, "Oh, so there's 2 trespassers here." He goes, "Well, where's your friend?" And, when he said that, my stomach just sunk into my spleen. I watched my friend get killed by a goddamn Leviathan, and I've got a government agent basically pinning me to disclose it to him. A liar. But,
Jesus, man.
And I just say, "Well, officer, you see, something god-awful had happened in that cave. There's something horrific in there." And he's looking at me with almost like a smirk of a sort. He goes, "Well, brother, we've got quite a problem on our hands here." He goes, "We're going to need you to come with us. You're what we call an NGP, non-government personnel." And he goes, "You've got yourself in quite a mess here." He goes, "I take it you've seen some things in there you weren't supposed to." And, I'm seeing these 2 agents kind of approaching me really aggressively, and their footsteps get juxtaposed with the simultaneous reemergence of just ground-shaking stomps from this beast in the cave who decided he wanted to make another appearance. And God, this was a horror. I see them all start taking positions with their weapons as this beast comes forth. And the base of this thing's footsteps, he must have been angry. We were all congregating, outside his home. And so these agents go from a calm walk to, a manic sprint, and they quickly grab a hold of me. The military personnel ups their weapons into position, and I just remember, as they were dragging me out of there, seeing that beast once more as he just emerged out of that cave with an incredible ferocity and rage, and the military just unleashes gunfire onto this poor thing. And as they're rushing me into the back of a chopper, I just see the horrific damage this beast was inflicting onto these men. And, I was sitting there once more, sort of full of guilt, unscathed. Couldn't help but kind of feel some level of responsibility for this whole thing. And, at this point, as we get pretty high up in altitude and we make our way from this incredible scene, I can't help but ask. The pilot there, I say to him out of a sort of deeply fearful curiosity, I go, sir, where are you taking me? And he just looks back at me and he says, look, bud, you've seen a lot of things here today, wouldn't you say? I respond with, well, yeah, I certainly suppose I have there, sir. He goes, pretty lucky you are, making it out of there. He says, sorry about your friend. And he goes, but, you wandering off all the way out here in the middle of nowhere, and your friend disappearing is going to be a tricky story back at the ranch, isn't it? And I'm going to... What are you trying to say? You see that thing down there? I had nothing to do with it. And he says to me, buddy, we're afraid that it would be a bit of a difficulty for you to reintegrate back into your normal life. And I just say, look, man, give it to me straight here. Where are you guys planning on taking me? What are you doing with me? And that was when he'd told me that he was bringing me to a place that I would later find out was called, Paradise Village. And my God, man, perhaps that's a story for another day.